In Cyberpunk 2077, Keanu Reeves is inside you. 5 out of 5. When asked what the most anticipated release of the last 5 years is, personally I would say Sober Scene, but I know a damn lot more people would say Cyberpunk 2077. Having a particularly massive scope, taking allegedly 9 years to develop, Cyberpunk garnered a ton of hype over the years. Hype that I wasn't really in the loop with. I kinda just bought the game a day before release because I figured I may as well. I'll start with a big disclaimer. Considering how big of a game it is, I imagine that this review might be more akin to a first impressions type video. Psych! I no-life this shit and finished the game twice, all in 2 weeks, to make this video for you guys. Yet again, I'm losing my life to a video game. Set in the chaotic, sprawling metropolis of Night City in the year 2077, you play as V, who is, well, whoever you want them to be. These gender, appearance, attributes, perks, and life path are all customizable in the character creation screen, and all these choices are said to have somewhat of an impact on the story throughout the game. In other words, you basically choose your character's origin story and how big your dick and butt is. From then on, how you approach playing Cyberpunk is similarly left up to you. You got the main story questline where you and your partner in crime Jackie infiltrate the HQ of a multi-billion-dollar megacorporation Arasaka and steal a highly classified biochip. In doing so, you also witness the extremely powerful CEO of Arasaka, Saburo, getting murdered by his own son. Then you get to choose if you want to sleep with Angel or Sky. Pick Angel assuming she's the girl one, but he's actually the guy. Then turns out inside this biochip you stole is the saved conscience of highly influential rocker boy turned terrorist Johnny Silverhand, and gradually Silverhand's conscience begins to take over your own, meaning you're on borrowed time finding a way to disconnect the chip without losing your life in the process. Aside from the game's main story questline, there is an absolute abundance of side quest content scattered around the huge open world map of Night City. This can range from smuggling a wanted unconscious brain surgeon past a gang that wants him dead, to saving children hooked into sick twisted drugging machines like livestock at a cattle farm. The more you involve yourself in the dystopia that is Night City and its residents, the more its pervading dark atmosphere comes to life. To me, this atmosphere is Cyberpunk's biggest selling point. The vast open-world futuristic Night City is so compelling to explore. Different areas in this city are controlled by different gangs. Citizens are all decked out with unique outfits, tattoos, and cyberware augmentations. Bizarre advertisements for interactive porn devices or adult bondage perfumes light up on giant billboards. You have Joy Toys offering their services on the streets, weapon vendors and ripper docs running their own businesses, and illegal brain dance dealers in back alleys. It can have a pretty shallow or bare bones way of doing it sometimes, but Cyberpunk doesn't shy away from adult themes. In my opinion, you can have a hyper-dense world with a Bible's worth of lore and backstory all written out, but the specific omission of realism, due to something being too adult in adherence with the game's rating for instance, would definitely harm the city's foreboding atmosphere. Often with role-playing games, I gather that the appeal with playing comes with this immersive feeling of entering another world, an escape from the real world even. And while I'm not a complete stranger to the genre, Cyberpunk was the first game where I really felt this. Usually I'm not too hot on sci-fi either. Often when laser beams, flying cars, aliens, and UFOs get involved, I quickly lose interest. But I think Cyberpunk circumvented this in a similar way that Black Mirror did. Cyberpunk isn't set thousands of years into the future, but a mere 50. A lot of the technology and environments you observe aren't completely unheard of or unrealistic. This got me far more interested in pondering on the feasibility of everything around me when playing, which was a tremendous boost to the immersion of the game. Night City is so enticing because of how compelling and feasible of a reality to us that it stands to be. Just being there provokes you to ponder on heavy themes ranging from technology, cosmetics and morality to capitalism, corporate power and social change in regards to what the future holds. Aesthetically, simply observing this urban capital illuminated under the scorching desert sunlight highlights the livelihood and energy of everything around you. Yet, when the sun comes down, rain falls and neon lights begin to reflect on its wet, worn-out pavement, Night City exhibits the same visual appeal in a whole new way. Despite the utter chaos and horror that goes on there, Night City just has this dichotomous, alluring charm to it. It's disgusting, frightening and bleak, but keeps you coming back for more. I got so involved in my V's story that I'd boot up the game and in what felt like no time, the sunlight through my window was gone, the turkey in the oven was burnt beyond recognition, and my cat had died. This was largely in part due to Cyberpunk's other strongest asset, its writing. Cyberpunk's quests involve a broad assortment of excellently written characters that, however significant they may be, each seem to have a history in the city, a story to tell. As such, meeting more and more of them accumulates the level of detail to the game's world. Having been voted the worst place to live in America, which is no easy feat I'm sure, getting to know someone in Night City who's actually genuine, clinging on to a side of them that's distinctly human amidst a sea of half people driven only by self-interest, made for some of the most memorable moments when playing. Aside from exploration, gameplay in Cyberpunk's missions generally involves infiltrating a hideout or headquarters and usually, but not always, eliminating enemies in the process. This sounds simple enough, but Cyberpunk provides ample diversity to how you approach doing this. With 5 core stats and 12 total talent trees within them, there's plenty of different paths to diversify your progression throughout the game. Blitz through missions guns blazing by specking into the different assault trees. Sneak through unnoticed with a more stealth-oriented playstyle. Upgrade your technical intelligence for greater hacking or crafting capabilities. Or better yet, discover a mix of all of these that suits you the best. My first playthrough I spec'd heavily into blades and became this ultra-speedy ninja bitch that just one-shot people with my katana. The next, I played a nerd hacker man where I could take people out from afar unnoticed with a variety of different quick hacks. The first seemed to suit a more traditional action FPS style of play, albeit a bit more melee focused, whereas the second had a more unique novelty feel to it. The different quirky quick hacks range from letting you blind or deafen someone temporarily so you can sneak past them, to a spreading poison virus, to even forcing someone into a state of cyberpsychosis where they can't tell enemies apart from allies. And this is just 2 of seemingly many different playstyles to approach the variety of missions that felt exciting to revisit and tackle in different ways. In saying this, however, you can pretty much finish the main game and even a few side quests, and only then just barely complete 1 of the 12 talent trees. You can continue to pursue side content and reach max level after this, but I feel like letting players unlock more of the exciting power-ups and upgrades faster in their session would add to the excitement to keep progressing, assuming the difficulty likewise increases. On the topic of Cyberpunk's weaknesses, it's probably important I address the elephant in the room, or it was supposed to be in the room, but it no-clipped through the wall and under the ground. Yeah, so this game has a ton of bugs. Sometimes dialogue overlaps itself, sometimes people don't load, sometimes it crops your screen, sometimes this happens. The list goes on. Personally, I feel like I got off pretty lucky, as with the bugs I encountered, I could generally just reload the game and fix it, but my worst experience was having to do so multiple times on the final mission, which was pretty damn frustrating. Aside from this being the obvious main frustrating factor most people are talking about, I did have various other complaints playing Cyberpunk. The AI of non-telegraphed characters in Cyberpunk is pretty damn bare bones, considering how much was originally promised. The general public don't really do anything meaningful but walk around aimlessly or exclaim one of the many basic lines of dialogue. I mean, you can literally walk outside buck naked, for instance, and no one bats an eye, which I can confirm isn't realistic. The game would benefit a lot from content that isn't all action and bloodshed, content that lets you kinda just chill for a while in the city. It'd be great to have more ways of hanging out with characters, play minigames, get haircuts or tattoos, or even go shopping, for instance. The police system in general needs an overhaul, because right now it pretty much functions as follows. You shoot someone with no one around to witness. 6 cops spawn out of nowhere in response. You leisurely enter your vehicle and drive off into the sunset. You are now a free man. When what was promised was an intelligent yet corrupt police force that could be bribed or bartered with. None of that is here.
Got what you wanted, didn't you? So get the fuck out of here.
Fuck you! The city would be better off without you. You piece of
Need something else?
What the fuck? It just fucking disappeared. What the fuck? I was gonna loot his body. What the shit, dude? Where'd he? What the? What? Where the fuck is the cop? The fucking cop just fucking spawned in out of fucking nowhere!
Also, having played through twice, I came to realize the seemingly drastic life path choice in character creation held little to no relevance at all throughout the game. It merely dictates the small opening segment and provides some unique dialogue options here and there. The UI, particularly the world map, could do with some work. Amidst hundreds and hundreds of exclamation marks where some are missions you've received, some in progress, and some are yet to be started, there's no way of telling which is which without hovering over each and every one. This makes it extremely difficult to really plan how you intend to explore, so you have to rely on your phone, which is just one great big mile-long list with no sorting or searching of any kind. What's more, different contacts will constantly bring you up on this phone with new jobs to take on, vehicles on offer, or updates and stuff you don't really care about just because you happen to be in the area, often irrespective of what you're currently doing, and you can't control this. You could be in the middle of a personal conversation and all of a sudden the phone rings and V starts having 2 conversations at once. Something else that particularly frustrated me is the damn minimap when driving. Traveling Night City involves either using one of the many scattered fast travel teleport booths or driving yourself in one of your many different vehicles. I tended to prefer spending the extra time cruising along on a motorcycle, taking in the sights. Problem is, when you start picking up speed, following directions given on your minimap, it doesn't fucking zoom out like it would in GTA. So you only realize you have to turn about half a second before the turn is right in front of you. This sounds minor, because it is. It's a really simple fix. Yet this means so many of my goddamn turns I missed, crashed, and had to turn back again before I continue my journey. Finally, people still seem to go bald in the future, which is not a happy thought for me moving forward. For me, my main criticisms with Cyberpunk all seem to be symptoms of one central root problem: a lack of intricate care and polish. This doesn't come as much of a surprise when delving into the can of worms that is Cyberpunk's marketing and release, with an array of promised features not being there in the present game, multiple release date extensions, and intense heavy 6-day crunch weeks. There's a lot to uncover here, and I feel that I don't have a great deal to add on top of what's already been said, other than my perspective on it all. With the amount of hype this game garnered in the lead up to its release, nothing could have satiated the immense expectations some of these players had. This game had a truly enormous scope, with a ton of outcomes to be met and deadlines to reach. The bigger your scope of your project, the more potential there is to fuck up at some point. Naturally, when things inevitably go wrong, certain aspects of the game need to be prioritized, others disregarded. I think some of the fans really went overboard with their crazy expectations of Cyberpunk, but I also agree that this is largely in fault of the deceitful marketing that's plagued the game industry for a while now. As Total Biscuit said, I think a good lesson here is to not pre-order games, so companies can't earn money on false promises.
It is a nasty cycle. Stop being involved in it, please. Think very, very hard before you pre-order a game. If you have even the slightest doubt, for the love of God, wait. You are doing more damage to yourself and to the industry than you can possibly realize. We as consumers have the ability to stop this bullshit for good.
With this said, it's perfectly valid to complain about a product that isn't what it's promised to be, especially with its considerable price tag. But it's important to remember that developers don't want to ship bad games. The blame is more on the filthy capitalist corpo scum executives that plague the shithole of a world, nomads for life. I don't know what to think with Cyberpunk. I'm glad I went into it blind, because if I'd followed the year's worth of hype and got all riled up for the release, I know I would have been disappointed. It's something I enjoyed so damn much. I mean, I spent 70 hours on it in under 2 weeks, for God's sake. Yet, considering how much potential it has, you can't help but notice just how much is incomplete, unrefined, or plain broken. In closing, if any of the positives to this game really appeal to you, I'd say don't hold back and would still recommend Cyberpunk. If you can hold off on playing until the promised stability updates in January and February, or even until the DLC later next year, I would definitely recommend keeping it close on your radar until then. Play Katana Zero in the meantime. This game has so much to gain from further patches and updates, it's not even funny. I really hope the team continues to put in the time, money, and effort needed to bring the game up to the golden standard that I know it's so close yet so far from being. It's kind of weird to not end a video with a joke. Penis? Yeah, I mean, yeah, alright. Yeah, let's go with penis.